The Nile didn't fail quietly. It failed like betrayal. At first, the palace tried to pretend nothing was wrong because courts survive on performance. Priests insisted the river would rise any day. Advisors spoke in soothing circles. Servants were ordered to smile. But outside the palace walls, people stopped smiling. Nadine stood on a balcony with Cleopatra at dawn, watching the river's shallow edge glint under sun that felt too bright, too cruel. Boats rested in mud where water should have been. Fishermen stared at empty nets. Children ran along the banks, their laughter thinner than it should be. Cleopatra's face remained calm. But Nadine could see it, the tension behind her eyes, the way her fingers flexed once at her side. "Everyone will look at you," Nadine said softly. "Not because you caused it, but because you're the nearest god they can touch." Cleopatra didn't blink. "I am not a god," she said. Nadine almost laughed, then stopped. The queen wasn't denying the myth. She was measuring how to use it. A commotion rose below. A crowd had formed near the gates, farmers, traders, mothers. Their hands were empty, but their eyes were full. Hunger hadn't arrived yet. But fear had. Cleopatra turned from the balcony and strode into the throne hall. Nadine followed, heart kicking, trying to remember every documentary, every carved relief, every line of text she'd ever read about Cleopatra's choices. None of it felt like enough. Inside, Cleopatra summoned her advisors. They came draped in linen and gold, but Nadine saw the desperation beneath the polish. Men who loved power loved it most when it was slipping. One advisor, sharp-faced, oily-eyed, suggested raising taxes to secure royal reserves. Another suggested closing the granaries to prevent panic. A third suggested blaming foreign gods and staging a grand sacrifice. Nadine's stomach turned. Cleopatra listened without reacting, as if their words were pieces on a board. Then she looked at Nadine. A silent question. What would tomorrow remember? Hook beat, Nadine made a move that could kill her. She stepped forward. "If you close the granaries," she said carefully, "you won't prevent panic. You'll create it. People don't riot when they're hungry. They riot when they believe you don't care." The oily-eyed advisor snapped. "And why should we listen to a stranger?" Cleopatra's gaze cut like steel. "Because she speaks without fear," Cleopatra said, and the room chilled. Cleopatra rose. "Open the royal granaries," she ordered. "Today." The advisors froze. One tried to protest. Cleopatra lifted a hand, one small gesture, and the protest died. Nadine felt something shift in the air. The queen wasn't just reacting. She was declaring the kind of ruler she would be. The palace gates opened. Grain poured out under guard supervision, measured, controlled, but visible. The people saw it with their own eyes, their queen feeding them, not hoarding from them. And then Cleopatra did something even smarter. She stepped onto a platform in the open square and lifted a basket of grain herself. She didn't speak, not to the crowd, not to Nadine, not in a way anyone could call a speech. She simply held the grain high so the sunlight caught it, so every hungry eye could witness it. A symbol. "I will not let you starve." Nadine's chest tightened. In her world, leaders talked. Cleopatra showed. Hook beat, something in the crowd changed. The first cheer didn't sound joyful. It sounded relieved. A release of pressure. Like a city exhaling. But relief is fragile. As the days passed, the river remained low. The granaries kept the city alive, but the countryside began to strain. Traders arrived with news, villages arguing, temples whispering, men claiming Cleopatra had angered the gods. Cleopatra did not panic. She built. Public works began, canals deepened, irrigation repairs, workers paid in grain. The city moved like a living machine. Nadine watched Cleopatra walk through construction sites, robe lifted slightly from dust, eyes scanning, remembering names. The queen didn't just feed people. She made them useful. Because useful people don't turn into mobs. They turn into a force. One evening, Nadine followed Cleopatra through a quiet corridor into a place that felt like breathing, the Great Library's annex. Scrolls lined shelves like sleeping dragons. Scribes moved like ghosts. Oil lamps painted warm circles of light. Cleopatra ran her fingers along a scroll case, reverent. "You love this," Nadine whispered. Cleopatra glanced at her, and for a moment her mask slipped. "Knowledge is the only weapon that grows sharper when shared," Cleopatra said. Hook beat, Nadine noticed something terrifying. On a nearby table sat a glass pendant. Not hers. A second relic, smaller, twin-shaped, threaded with the same gold pulse. Nadine's blood turned to ice. Cleopatra noticed her stare. "You found the other," Nadine breathed. Cleopatra's eyes narrowed. "It was found long ago," she replied. Then, like a dagger hidden in silk, Cleopatra added, "and it always brings trouble to my door." Before Nadine could move, a servant rushed in, face pale, carrying a sealed message. Cleopatra broke it open. Her eyes flicked across the marks. Then she looked up, calm, deadly. "Rome has arrived," she said. Nadine's mind flashed with history, Julius Caesar, power plays, alliances, betrayal. But the way Cleopatra smiled now wasn't romantic. It was strategic. And Nadine realized the crisis wasn't only the Nile. It was men. Men who would use hunger as leverage, and love as a story, and queens as pieces. Cleopatra held out the message to Nadine. "Tomorrow," she said, "I meet the lion." Nadine's relic warmed against her skin again, pulsing twice like a heartbeat speeding up. And Nadine understood, the next move would decide whether Cleopatra became a puppet or a legend carved into time.